Welcome to Capitalize Your Finances, the podcast that's your ultimate guide to mastering personal finances and unlocking the secrets of entrepreneurship. Each week, we dive into the world of personal finance and business development and have fascinating conversations with industry experts, seasoned entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who share their insights, strategies, and stories to help you get ahead in life. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur looking to scale your business or someone just starting out on your financial path, this podcast is your go-to resource for inspiration and actionable insights.
Welcome back to Capitalize Your Finances. As always, I'm your host, Christopher A. Poniotu, certified financial planning professional, the Cap in Capitalize. And on today's episode, we are going to learn everything that you need to know regarding what to do with extra monthly cash. However, as always, before we get into that, your free advice for the week. Finish your friggin' taxes if you have not already done so. This recording will be coming out on April 14th. And if you have not done your taxes, you've got plus or minus 1 day to figure it out. If you are doing them yourselves, this is mission critical. If you have a CPA or an enrolled agent and your team has already talked to you, you are golden. But if you have a CPA or an enrolled agent and you haven't heard from them at all and you got a day to file your taxes, you probably need a new professional in your lineup after tax season. So with that free advice for the week, which again, very short and sweet and mission critical, unless you want to not file your taxes and then get a knock on your door by the IRS, which is never fun. Not that I would know because I don't, but I could imagine it is unpleasant. We need to get into the episode of what you need to do with your extra monthly cash. And a lot of people get really excited when they have extra money at the end of every month, especially if you've gone for years without having that free cushion of cash. But just because you have this free, quote unquote, amount of money does not mean that you need to be silly with that money. You need to be prudent. You need to be smart. And there's a lot of things that you need to do. One of the things that we need to talk about is building a strong financial foundation. And the easiest yet most boring and frankly overlooked thing that you will need to do is you need to boost your emergency fund. I've talked about this ad nauseum in the past, and I will keep doing so until I'm blue in the face. On average, I would say 95% of you listening in need about 3 to 6 months of emergency funds in your savings. So again, if you spend $5,000 a month, you want to have that floating in your checking account at all times, money in, money out. And then you would want to have anywhere between $15,000 to $30,000 that 3 to 6 months. Occasionally, if you have a job or if you run a business where income is a little bit volatile and a little bit lumpy, or you're in a cyclical industry like construction or architecture, or even HVAC or painting, whatever the case may be, you may even need up to 9 months or in some cases even a year. But 3 to 6 months, that should do it for the majority of you listening in. And just to get a little bit more granular, if you've got a family and you are the only one providing for the family, and if you were out of a job, like physically out of commission, you're not making any money, you probably need 6 months. If it's just you or maybe you and your infinitely better half, and you got 2 pretty cushy white collar jobs, so you could be basically paralyzed from the neck down and still do your job, you could probably get away with 3 months, okay? The only other thing I was going to mention about that, if you haven't already thought about it, I would highly recommend you look at an online savings account for an extra rate of return on your money that will just sit there, because someday your savings account will actually pay for things like an IRA contribution, Roth IRA contribution, investment account, paying down your mortgage, things of that nature, okay? Because your money wants to work for you. Now, the second thing I want to talk about is paying down high interest debt. Generally speaking, this is a credit card, personal loan. This is more often than not the easiest way by a mile that you can basically level up your lifestyle and your financial situation if you have extra cash flow at the end of every single month. And one of the things that I want you to remember is when you're paying down that high interest debt, think of whatever that interest rate is as the rate of return that you are earning on that quote unquote investment. So if you have a credit card APR of 27%, ouch, and you're paying that down, you're earning 27% on that debt. And what's going to happen is once you've paid all that off, then you can go and invest into other things, which we'll talk about momentarily. And that actually brings up the point, investing wisely. That's another big topic that we need to dive into. So when it comes to increasing contributions into your retirement account, a 401k, IRA, HSA, just to name a few, go back to what I mentioned earlier, okay? For your free cash flow, you want to get the best bang for your buck as far as the interest rate is concerned. You want to earn the highest rate of return as humanly possible. Everyone does, no duh. But let's think about how you actually can do that. So if you have extra cash flow for the first time in your life, and let's say that you have a 401k at the company that you work at, and they match your money dollar for dollar up to 4%. That means for every dollar you put in, up to 4% of your salary, wage, commission, whatever, however you want to call it, you will get $1 put in by the company. That is a 100% rate of return on your money, and it's guaranteed. I know compliance doesn't like the G word, but I have to say it because that is in fact what you're getting. If it's 50 cents on the dollar, that's a 50% guaranteed rate of return. So my point is, when you have free cash flow, all things being equal, it is a non-negotiable. You got to put in at the bare minimum that match to get the free money. Now, once you get above and beyond that, it gets a little bit interesting, because then you've got to ask yourself, oh, if I have a high interest rate debt, should I pay off that 27% interest rate? Or is my blended tax rate maybe really, really, really high if I'm in a high tax bracket? Oh, well, then maybe I should continue to put money in pre-tax to my retirement account because I'm earning 32% on my tax rate versus 27% on the taxes, or excuse me, on the interest rate on my debts that I have. So it's always, always, always coming down to the interest rates. Now, I mentioned a 401k with the match and being able to max that out accordingly. I mentioned an individual retirement account if you want a deduction, or a Roth IRA if it was tax-free. The one thing I wanted to briefly mention too, major if, you have access to a health savings account, it is a non-negotiable. You need to contribute to that. First off, you can't contribute a ton into a health savings account relative to an individual retirement account, or for sure a 401k. And I'm not going to get into the specifics on how much you can contribute for now, but what my point is with an HSA, a health savings account, your money goes in pre-tax, so you get a deduction for it. The money grows tax deferred because you can invest that money once you get above a certain amount of cash. Generally, it's $1,000 or $1,500 in the account, depending on your provider. But then if that money is used for qualified health expenses, and there is a laundry list of what those are, that money is tax-free. So we call it the triple whammy. It's a really awesome tool, and it's highly overlooked. Understandably so, because it's only been around since 2016 or 17. So it is a new concept. But if you have a high deductible health plan when it comes to insurance, you can use a health savings account. You need to talk to your company about that. Now, you order it in terms of the match or matches, and then you have the high interest rate debts. Never forget high interest rate debts, and never forget it's all about the interest rate on the return. Now, once you've done all of these things, meaning you've contributed up to the match, you understand that your high interest rate debts you're paying those off, and then those are gone, and you're able to then increase your retirement plan contribution that much further to get a deduction, or even if it's after tax with Roth being tax-free growth. After you've done all that, then and only then should you look to take that extra cash flow and then invest in an investment account for like mid to long-term goals. I'll tell you, a lot of people get really, they kind of get bummed out when they think to themselves, oh, well, I'm never going to be able to max out my 401k. Just as an example. That's fine. There's nothing wrong ever with keeping your life as simple as possible for as long as possible. Don't overcomplicate your finances, because as you become more financially successful, your finances, it's naturally going to get more complex and difficult. Embrace the simplicity. It is totally okay. Now, before we go to the commercial break, I want you to know that we're going to be talking about planning for future goals. We're going to be talking about giving back. And then we're actually going to close out this episode on how to treat yourself responsibly when it comes to your extra monthly cash flow. So now that you know what's coming down the pike, don't go anywhere. Enjoy this award-winning commercial with 0% bias behind what I just said. And when we come back, we'll close this thing out appropriately. Stick around.
Are you ready to transform the way you approach sales? This episode is sponsored by the second book in the Capitalize series, Capitalize Your Sales, the all-in-one sales framework that saves you from ever struggling again and teaches you how to sell with sincerity, which dives deep into the art and science of driving sustainable growth. Packed with strategies that go beyond surface-level techniques, this book will help you understand what it takes to truly connect with clients, build long-term relationships, and close deals. Whether you're looking to fine-tune your sales craft or break through to the next level, Capitalize Your Sales offers a roadmap to success designed for today's fast-paced business world. Head on over to your favorite bookstore, order today, and start capitalizing your sales immediately. And now, back to the episode.
Welcome back to the show. We're going to get right into the thick of things with planning for future goals with that extra cash flow you have every single month. So one of the things that is highly overlooked until it really shouldn't be is saving for large expenses. So we're talking a house down payment, condo, car, education, just to name a few. So all things being equal, go back to what we were talking about before the commercial break. You got this extra cash flow. You're putting your money in to get the match. That's a non-negotiable. Anything above and beyond that, you're either contributing to a high interest rate debt if you have high interest rate debt, and or contributing to your retirement contribution, continuously trying to max that out so you can retire that much sooner. Obvious. What isn't obvious is when you've got these intermediate type of goals like a house payment, car payment, and we're talking down payment or education expenses. So what you want to do, and there's a couple ways to do it. A lot of people just say, hey, I'll take a couple $100 from my retirement account that otherwise would go toward retirement, and then I'll start to siphon that off to my savings account so that I can eventually save up for my car down payment or home down payment, whatever. I would like you to level that up a little bit. So what I would want you to do, and let's just take the car payment as an example, or excuse me, the home down payment, because that's a big one. I want you to think about when you're going to put a down payment on a home. I want you to think about the value of the home. And then based on the mortgage that you would take out, meaning, what's left over, how long it would take on a monthly basis to get to that down payment, and then take the appropriate amount from your retirement account or high interest rate debt, but for sure the 401k contributions, because you want to knock out the high interest rate debt before you make a big purchase like a home. And then you start setting that off to the side in your online savings account accordingly, because then you're getting very granular and specific on when you will have that money for that down payment. And then you've completely removed all of the emotional, unnecessary risk that most people succumb to when it comes to figuring out how to save for the large term expenses. Okay. And then lastly, you want to obviously know, as far as time horizon, what would be the best tool that you have at your fingertips financially where you could go and invest to earn the best rate of return given the unit of time in which you're trying to get that money to work for you. Say that 10 times fast. Now, another thing that you can think of too is, and it kind of falls in the same line of saving up for a large expense. If you're trying to save for a big trip or a hobby, and you don't really know how, to go about it. Very similar to the expenses, the large expenses we were talking about. You can set up a hobby fund or a travel fund. Now, some people get a little confused with this. And so what I've seen in the past is you have your checking account, you have your savings account. Anything above and beyond what you need in savings, people just know intuitively that money is going towards that large purchase of a home or a car, or education, whatever. I've also seen people set up a separate savings account, and I would still have an online savings account with that. And then that's like their travel or hobby fund, because as you're setting that money aside, not only do you know intuitively that is for your travel and hobby, it's not convoluted with the rest of your savings account, and then can get a little squirrely and distracting for people. And then lastly, what's kind of cool is on top of everything else, your travel or your hobby money will earn interest until you pull that money out. So let's say after your trip or your hobby, you've made maybe a couple hundred, in some cases, a couple $1,000s on money that was just sitting there anyway. That's pretty freaking awesome. So don't overcomplicate it. If you need to set up one extra account, so be it. Now, giving back, charitable contributions, supporting your community, as you start to earn more, and not like once you like immediately start to earn more, but once you start to earn more and you know after a while that you're going to be okay, like more than okay, you've got to remember that you have to be a steward of your hard-earned success. And I see people time and time again kind of get loose with their stringency with their money that's gotten them to where they are. And unfortunately, once you take your eye off the ball, that is when financially you are going to get hit and humbled so quickly that you won't know what to do with yourself. Now, you also got to think about it not only from a kindness of your heart perspective. There's tax savings in strategy in appropriately giving back, whether it's a nonprofit or a local initiative, things of that nature. So over time, this is kind of extra cash flow 301 or 401. You should be thinking about where you can go and gift that money to. And obviously, for those of you that are just starting out in the world of finance and you want to give money back, but you don't know where to, or sometimes you just feel like you're super constrained and you just don't have the money at the time, you also got to remember there are so many different ways to give back, and money is not the only way. You can give back your time, which I could argue is more valuable than any dollar that you could ever gift back. You could give back on, I give back through this podcast. I make zero money on this podcast. This is my philanthropic endeavor of the knowledge that I've been blessed with from the big man upstairs. And I try to gift as much of it to you as humanly possible. So there are tons of other ways to give back. But as this is a finance show, you got to think about over time where you could gift some of that money to, and you just got to be smart with it from a tax perspective. Now, let's say that you do want to gift back, but you don't know exactly where you want to go, but there are maybe a number of causes out there that are of interest of you. That is where we've seen this in our practice a ton. Donor advised funds come about, where this fund basically you set it up, and then a lot of these nonprofits, what they do, or these foundations act on your behalf, and based on the list of nonprofits at their fingertips, you can kind of pick and choose. Or if you don't even want to pick and choose, and they kind of gift your money on a prorated basis through all of their charities that they gift to, they can do that as well. So donor advised funds and that is not just for wealthy people. That is for everyday people. It's pretty easy to set up. You could just go online, type in how to set up a donor advised funds, and I am sure Google will give you 15,000 pages in the 0.00039 seconds that Google can think. Now, the only flip side to that is if you are uberly obsessed with controlling your money when it comes to where you want to give it to, and specifically where you want to give it to within that organization, donor advised funds may not be the right option for you. And then not to get like too into the weeds, but like if you're making like BOCO bucks and you want to set up a foundation, but let's say you're really, really private and you don't want your name out there. Well, foundations, you have to file a lot of things publicly. And so you've really got to think about how you're going to try to contribute back to society in the best way. Because sometimes the taxes they pale in comparison to how important privacy is to you. I'm not going to go farther on a tangent with that because I could go so many different directions. The last thing I want to talk about is treating yourself responsibly with extra cash flow, because it's a big deal. Like if you're just clawing and fighting and scratching and you are living paycheck to paycheck for a while, which by the way, that is not necessarily a bad thing, because if you're not going backwards like some people are, that's a positive. And that is a natural evolution to your financial life. So just know that as a quick side note. But I see a lot of people, and I'm going to close this out after this next little segment with my own personal story of struggling with this, where as I started to break even after 8 years, which was forever. I know that can be quick in the grand scheme of things for some people, but I felt it. I mean, I freaking felt that claw, fight, and scratch. I was not able to appreciate a lot of that. So allocating a small percentage for fun or indulgence, just budget in breathing room. So like, I'll just tell you, so when people come into our practice and let's say that they have $3,000 a month in free cash flow, I'm making this up. I will ask them, how much do you want me to show in your plan going towards something of prudency, meaning long-term, short-term needs, whatever the case is. And then the rest of it, I don't show in the plan, but I tell my clients, I know that you have free cash flow every single month of whatever that dollar amount is. So let's say it was $2,000 a month based on the $3,000 hypothetical. And so then over time, as they start to understand that, oh, I don't actually need as much cash, then you toggle how much they invest every month and kind of go from there. But for you, if you're doing this on your own, which is totally fine, you just need to budget in that cushion. And then maybe once a quarter, you look at your situation and go, man, how in the world did I get all this cash? Well, it's because that's your free cash flow and you didn't really need it. So you either automate that away, maybe you pay off that debt that much sooner, maybe you set money aside for that hobby, or maybe you take some of that money and you just go on a really nice dinner or a really nice weekend getaway, something along those lines. It's totally okay to allocate a small percentage for fun and indulgence, but emphasize small percentage. Do not get overly comfortable with trying to keep up with the Joneses, because it's going to end very, very, very poorly. Okay. Balancing enjoyment with financial growth is going to be something that many of you will struggle with forever. And this is where I actually wanted to close out this episode. I can tell you at the end of 2024, I've spoken about this actually a decent amount recently on past episodes. I was a guest on the Drummer Moon 5's podcast, and we talked about this a lot. I always set New Year resolutions for myself, personally, professionally, and then with my health and fitness. I've done that for years. And many of them are quantitative in nature. I want to get X amount of new clients or hit a PR in weightlifting, whatever the case may be. And a lot of those goals are stretchy, meaning I'm going to do my best. I'm not going to hit all of them. It's really going to stretch me. But if I get some of them, I know I'm infinitely farther ahead than 99% of peers or whatever the case may be. In 2024, I was proud professionally. It was the first year I hit every single goal. And my wife and I, every year we go out of town for a couple of days just to unplug, get away. And on that trip, I actually just broke down because it hit me so hard in the fact that like I never knew what the cost actually was to getting to the level at which I strived to get at. Now, I'm not saying it wasn't worth it. It was worth it. It is so worth it. Never been happier than I am today. Super proud of that. But what I'm telling you is I forgot to value the qualitative aspects of the wins over time. And that did cost me. So I can tell you in the year of 2025, all of my goals for the first time ever are purely qualitative in my life. I'm not going to go through all of them because that's for another time. I can tell you it's scary for me because I am a quantitative guy. I mean, for crying out loud, that's what my show, my business, my brand is all about. It's about capitalizing on your finances, capitalizing on your sales, capitalizing on your business, okay? Those are all quantitative things. But the most valuable thing that I can look at is the quality in which I am achieving it, because now the quantity will take care of itself. So I'm telling you this because as you're starting to break through to that next level, you are going to become a slave to the love of the financial growth of things, the black and white numbers. It is okay to take a step back and breathe and appreciate what you have. And that's a lot easier said than done. And I understand that, but that's something that all of you are going to have to master, especially because you have the mindset that I do listening to this show. So with that, that is a perfect place to stop. And I had a blast researching this episode. I hope you had a phenomenal time listening into this. I will see you next week. As always, I'm your host, Christopher A. Paniotu, certified financial planning professional, the Cap and Capitalize. And until next time, keep capitalizing. Take care. As always, thank you for joining me today. If you have questions about today's episode or any personal finance questions, please reach out to me at Cap and Capitalize on Instagram, Chris@capitalizeyourfinances.com, or via our website, capitalizepodcast.com. If you want more Capitalize Your Finances content, head on over to capitalizepodcast.com and check out our blog, free resources, book, and online course. As always, I'm your host, Christopher A. Paniotu, certified financial planning professional, the Cap and Capitalize. And until next time, keep capitalizing.
The information provided should not be considered specific tax, legal, or investment advice and is not specific to any individual's personal circumstances. Each taxpayer should seek independent advice from a tax professional based on his or her individual circumstances. These materials are provided for general information and educational purposes based upon publicly available information from sources believed to be reliable. The information in these materials may change at any time and without notice. Examples cited are hypothetical, are for illustrative purposes only, are not guaranteed, and subject to potential federal and state law amendments. There's no guarantee that you will achieve the results discussed or illustrated. IRA withdrawals will be taxed at ordinary income rates. Withdrawals prior to age 59.5 may also be subject to a 10% penalty tax. Roth IRA distributions of principal from a Roth IRA are tax-free. However, any earnings will be taxed at ordinary income rates, and a 10% penalty tax will apply if withdrawn prior to age 59.5 or within 5 years of the date the Roth IRA was established, whichever is longer. 401k benefits may be subject to change at your employer, the governing pension, or benefit organization's discretion. Christopher Paniotu is a registered representative with and securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. Capitalize Your Finances LLC is a separate entity from LPL Financial. Capitalize Your Finances is not registered as a broker-dealer or investment advisor. CRPS conferred by College for Financial Planning.